Hi, welcome to Bridging the Gap, hosted by Utah Behavior Services, a podcast dedicated to exploring behavioral and mental health. I'm your host, Boston Miner, joined today with some very special guests, Nicole Detling and Bella Lauaki. Before you hear from them, we are so excited to announce that Utah Behavior Services is hosting its second self-care summit this May in Salt Lake City. We're going to have some awesome speakers to explore different areas of wellness, such as emotional wellness, physical wellness, financial wellness, etc. This event is being open to the public for the first time. It has typically been for employees only, and today we are so excited to welcome Dr. Nicole Detling, one of our special summit guests, to explore self-care so that we can get ready for the conference. Nicole, Bella, please tell me about yourselves and a little bit about what you do.
You want to go first?
Okay, fine. I'll go first. So I'm Gabriella Lauaki. I go by Bella. I am Vice President of HR here with Utah Behavior Services. Former student athlete at the University of Utah. Mom of a 2-year-old. Lovely husband, big family. From California. Love me some beach, but that's a little bit about me.
Also, do you go to the out to the lake? You go
sometimes.
The beach. You're like,
Jet
I need the beach.
Yeah, a little bit. It's definitely hard because especially when you're so used to your lifestyle of like, let's just head to PCH and go for a drive.
Right.
What are we going to say? Let's go to State Street. Like, I don't know. It's kind of a little harder to go.
People cruise State Street.
What? Yeah, I know my grandma's like, that's what we used to do. I'm like, okay. But yeah, and obviously like throughout my whole experience, getting to know you and still have this relationship has been really awesome. And I'm excited for you to share your history and what you do. You've done some really awesome, great things from teams, from individuals, and like just catch up the whole audience because you're pretty dope. They don't gotta lie on that one.
Yeah, at least got one person fooled, so that's good. No, honestly, I have been so blessed to work with some of the most amazing people in the world at what they do. So I have a PhD in the field of sports psychology, I'm on the mental performance coaching side. So anything mental that can impact performance, confidence, composure, concentration, letting go of mistakes, dealing with adversity, things like that. I teach people skills in that realm. And so, gosh, the past 25 years now, which totally dates me because that's like longer than this kid's been alive. Yes. I've worked with some really amazing people. I've been to multiple Olympic and Paralympic games as part of Team USA. At this point, I've now worked with 41 athletes who came home with medals, not just went to the games, but came home with medals.
And I just have a question.
Really cool.
If they get a medal, do you get a medal?
Well, okay, so that brings us to an interesting story.
Tell me.
So part of Team USA that most people don't know is when an athlete from Team USA or a team, so an individual athlete or a team wins a medal, they go through all the medal ceremonies and everything, which is super cool, by the way. Like, it's even cooler in person than on TV. But later that night, they typically go to the Team USA house, which is a closed-off building. It's just for Team USA, and they have a private ceremony there. And what they do is there is a medal called the Order of Ikos, IKKOS medal, which Ikos is the first recognized coach in Athens who had the first recognized Olympics. And so it's this medal that they use then, and the athletes or the team choose who they want to give that medal to thank them for helping them achieve their medal. So it's a really private yet really cool ceremony where the athlete basically stands up there with the medal and says, the person I want to give this to, blah, 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 here's what they've done for me. Thank you so much for helping me win my medal. And I actually have one of those from the Vancouver Olympics.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like a lion.
So I do have a medal, which is really cool. Kind of like, other than people and pets, if your house is burning down, what's the one thing you're grabbing? That's the one thing I'm grabbing. Like, it's so rare and so special.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my journey with Olympic and Paralympic athletes, but the way we know each other. So I worked with the University of Utah teams for 7 years, all the teams up there, including softball. Yeah. So we met there doing that. I worked with Real Salt Lake for 3 years. I worked with the Utah Royals for 3 years. I worked with our Major League Rugby team. A lot of people don't even know we have Major League Rugby in Utah. We have a team here. I worked with them for 3 years. 3 seems to be the magic number at this point. and a ton of just high school athletes, a lot of individuals, a lot of teams all throughout the United States.
Federal government.
The federal government. Yes, I do workshops for the federal government, usually on like leadership or resilient leadership, things like that. Do a lot of keynoting for businesses. This is so much about me. See what I'm saying? Like, this gets boring. Like, okay.
Keep going.
Like, look me up if you really want to know. You'll find more stuff. But
buy my book here on Amazon right here.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the link to buy my book. Here's a link to my 2 podcasts I host. Yeah, right.
Love that.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, my whole world is just about trying to help people become the best versions of themselves and figure out how to do life a little bit better. Yeah. And it's been predominantly focused on athletes up until this point in time. But with, through the pandemic and recently, I've really made some big transitions to like federal government employees, to businesses. I actually work with a cybersecurity company now. I'm their full-time mental performance coach in-house. And so that's been a pretty fun experience too, because it's always people. And at the end of the day, we are all doing our best to perform our best, no matter what our performance is. Yep. That's not just sports, right? We perform every day. Yeah. And so I don't know. I just come from this place of the more people I can help figure out how to do life better. That's my whole mission in life. That's my goal.
It's awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being here. I want to kind of dive into self-care and the influence it has on your guys' teams. Nicole, your work seems to be based on mental toughness. Can you kind of explain what that means and how that affects your athletes and your teams?
Yeah, sure. So great question. And my answer to that question has changed over the years. Now it's kind of evolved to this point of mental toughness is essentially figuring out how to put forth your best self regardless of what's happening around you, regardless of what the performance is, regardless of what's happening that day. We all have stressors and adversity and things that we're working through. And how can you realize that you're in that space and then use some mental skills, mental tools to then do your best with whatever you have that day? I've realized over time that everyone defines mental toughness differently. And so really figuring out, if we're working together, I want to know what mental toughness means to you and then where you currently feel you are so I can help you bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. And so that's really, it's kind of a generic answer because I think it becomes really specific for each individual. Yeah. But I will say that a big piece of what I do, and I think helps distinguish between like the mental health piece, is I like to say that what we do within mental toughness is work on putting the fence at the top of the cliff so you're less likely to need the ambulance down the valley, right? Yes. Ambulance is great. We need it there. We want it there. But if we can build a fence, a bigger, stronger, higher fence at the top of the cliff, you're less likely to need the ambulance.
And there's not a lot of ambulances to go around sometimes.
No kidding. Yeah. No kidding. We don't always need it or it's not always there when we need it in that moment. Yeah. So having some skills and tools that you can use is really beneficial, I think, for a lot of people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Bella, I wanted to ask you, from an HR perspective, how have you stepped in for your team or helped other team leaders when self-care was needed? And how did you encourage that individual?
Yeah. So obviously when it comes to like my specific role with HR and, being around a bunch of leaders, being on the leadership team here at Utah Behavior Services is awesome. We obviously have over 400 employees. And so there's so many situations that come up. I think my biggest tool that I use, whether if it's risk analysis or consulting or even my own team members, is really slowing it down and really breaking it down to the basics of like, okay, who is this person? How do they operate? What's going on in the environment? And kind of zooming out and seeing the whole picture. It's kind of something that I really try to use on my team is, okay, we'll zoom out. Sometimes when you're so focused on what you do day to day to day to day, it's hard to see the whole picture of, okay, like what exactly is going on. And then that way you can actually see, is it something that you can help support through? Is it a people process? What's the barrier here that we're trying to overcome? When it's come to self-care, if it is a struggle because somebody's maybe not in a good spot, like luckily here at UTBS, we have great policies to really help support people take those actions.
And that's awesome. You mean you have like in-house policies for your employees? Fantastic.
You know what I mean? So whether if it's like a mentoring plan of like, hey, this is the support that we're going to get you, but like, let's access our mental health sessions, or let's check out the med clinic, or let's, dive in. If finances are a big issue, let's get you hooked up with Smart Dollar. Like, hey, you need to take some time off. Your auntie just passed away. Like, we're going to donate some PTO to you because you need to take a day and I need you to take care of yourself, right? Like, let's put up that fence so then that way you're not needing that ambulance. And so luckily UTBS has a lot of resources that I can pull out from my pocket and use. But when it comes to directors or even, people that are in that picture trying to problem solve it, it's hard for them to zoom out and be like, hey, what resources do I have available to support this person? As well as that balancing act of, we want to support them, but donating PTO every time is not really ideal, so making sure that they are building up those skills like Nicole had mentioned to really make it sustainable efforts for not only their personal growth, but their professional growth. And so it's always the hope that those supports get them going and now are bought in and looking forward to pulling up and budgeting their money or going to their mental health sessions or connecting with their team. And so that's kind of what I have seen is first, let's zoom out. Let's kind of exactly examine like what's going on. And then luckily having UTBS's resources available makes my job a lot easier.
But that's the key, right? It's like not just handing out a resource and getting them through the moment, but teaching them how to use this to get through future moments.
Yes.
Because the reality is life happens. Things are going to happen in life. Something else, when I do my keynote speaking or I'm speaking with federal government, I say all the time, as long as you're alive, something else is coming. Sometimes you can see it coming a mile away. Sometimes it smacks you between the eyes and you have no idea. But that's the reality of life. And so building up some of these skills by using the resources and then reflecting on that and recognizing how can I utilize this in the future? Because something else is going to happen. You're going to feel stressed. You're going to go through adversity. You're going to struggle at different times in life. So I am just huge proponent. And for those who are not like aware in the company, like if they don't know what the resources are, do they come to you?
They're leaders, hopefully. So the way that our structure is set up is, a lot of our direct line staff have mentors, and that mentor is really there to provide them the support, whether if it is in their job duties of like, yo, you got to turn your notes in, or like, or if it is more connecting them to those things. And then of course there's, the hierarchy. And so the leaders know about those things. I think sometimes it just gets lost because as a leader, like it's hard to not feel like, okay, get over it. You know what I mean? Or like, let's move forward. Like, I need you to keep going. And so it is a balancing act for sure. Like, okay, I want to hold them accountable. I want to push them, get them to become the best version of themselves. But maybe I do need to pull over for a second, And sometimes as a leader, like you're full force ahead. Like, so anytime that you think I got to slow down, you think you're disservicing your team or your company. And so it's hard to, as a leader, I think how I have stepped in for other leaders is by example and trying to, remain like not stuck in the suck or like being at a cool 2 while everybody's maybe at an 8. And the way that I can really look at that is just breaking it down for what it is, as well as really just overall humanizing it, and even though slowing down and doing a pump break may be frustrating at times, especially for people that are like, okay, we're go, 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 go. But sometimes that moment can really help. Even if the person doesn't want to stay with us on UTBS's team, dramatically impacts their momentum and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Really long answer to your question.
That was great. That was a great answer.
And I'm sorry, I'm the one who butted in and made it I was like,
totally good. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, in a case where someone doesn't reach out to you about their self-care, is lacking that self-care, how have you seen that affect their team? And what advice would you give to someone who's maybe not reaching out for making that self-care?
I think, I know we did a podcast not too long ago with like Shay and like talking about the importance around the holidays of like taking care of yourself. I think to answer the first part of your question, you're only as great as your weakest link, right? And so like whether you're on the bench, and Nicole knows this, but she was my mental coach, but like whether you're on the bench or you're in the circle or you're a professional leader or professional mentor or whatever the case is, you have value to the team, and your seat on the bus may look different, but own it and love it and dive into it and expand it. And that's where I feel like is the biggest thing is just that lack of understanding their importance on the bus. Because sometimes it's only the starters or the professional mentors or those kind of people that get all the praise, but it's a team for a reason. And so it's kind of diving into, you are important. What you do is important, whether you have a complete impact on the game, but you do, So I would say that's the biggest thing that they lack or don't see is that they do bring value to the table, in enhancing that. And then just in regards to affecting the team, I mean, a sigh goes a long way, right? Like we hear it all the time. You walk into your office and everybody feels that, you know? So making sure like that you are aware that you have a direct impact on the culture around you, and you can either make it or you can break it. And having fun, I think, is the biggest thing. Don't take yourself too seriously. You know, like you got to love what you got to do and realize that. And for those individuals that are maybe having a hard time tapping into those resources, the first thing that I would say is have a moment to figure out what you want or where you want to be, right? Because you can have somebody that's like, hey, come this way, or hey, let's level up. But if that's not what you want, then it may be harder for it to kind of go through. And so I think it's just really having that transparency and awareness of who you are and where you want to go, which is honestly the hardest step for a reason, is being aware of yourself for that. And realizing that it's okay. You know, there's no one shoe fits all. There's no like, hey, you need to fit this way. It's okay. Tell me a little bit more about that. And if it does come to the decision of, I don't think that can be doable here, well, at least we're transparent and not 6 months down the line making it way worse, you know? So I would just say, really just know like your seat on the bus is important. Like no matter where it is, if you're the DJ, if you've got snacks, if you're the driver, if you're like got all the cones, if something happens and we have to pull over, like that's important. And, you know, and we can't move forward without that. And so if it hasn't been known or you don't know that, highly encourage you to go to your leaders, because they will flat out tell you why it's important to what you're doing. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I just add to that, another way to say that is most people want to be a star on the team, but the way you get there is you start by being a star in your role. Yeah. So maybe your role isn't one that you want to keep and you don't like it. Well, how do you get out of it? You freaking be a star in your role. You do everything you can to maximize your ability to, or maximize your impact on others and be a great teammate. And that's going to help you move up within the team. And I don't care if we're talking sports or business or whatever we're talking about here. The only way to advance is be a star in your role. So thinking about that, right? So this is my role. This is my job description. It's my responsibility. I don't really want to stay here, but if I do this really, really well, it's going to open up opportunities for me to move somewhere else in the future. For sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's really great. Back when I was in 10th grade, I played basketball.
Nice.
And I never really got playing time. And so I really struggled with that. And my whole team did. And I always look back at that as like a dark time in my life because I didn't really have fun. Yeah. But when I look back at it now, I kind of wish I told myself that I did have a role on my team and that all my teammates had roles, because we all didn't really play either. Yeah. JV played over us. But I really wish that I could go back in time and tell my team, you know, we have a role here. We have a spot here. We have a purpose here, you know. So that's really great. I'm glad you guys kind of touched on that.
So curious, what did you learn from that now? So sure, if you could go back and do different, you would. But you can't. Yeah. So what lesson can you bring into what you're doing now in life that's going to be helpful for you moving forward?
I think you just really got to enjoy where you're at and understand where you're at. Like with my team here, I really like them. You know, I'm always finding the times where I'm like having a good time and appreciating those times, you know. And in those dark times, just really, you know, finding that light, you know, why I'm here. And so I think that's what that taught me.
And honestly, that's the most important lesson, right? As much as you may not have liked your experience then and you wish you could go back and do it different, if you hadn't learned that lesson, you wouldn't be enjoying now.
Exactly, yeah.
So what a great outcome.
It was great.
Difficult thing to go through.
And I think it brought all of us really close, you know, so that was really great.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for sharing.
Of course, yeah.
I stick with that because I feel, especially like, I feel like coaches and leaders around young athletes set the tone for that, you know, and especially like nowadays with like social media and like, you know, signing certain things that when you're 12 or something, it puts so much pressure on that. But sometimes people forget that the sport is a game, you know, like you really join it for the community part or the brother or the sisterhood part. And like sometimes that's no different with the UTBS, you know, like what we do can be hard, right? And like the services that we provide, the clients that we work with, but why are you here? And like the survey that we put out, most of the team members stay here because of the team. Like that's what they said is the vibe on the team is why I stay here. And so I hope you know that your value on this team is unshakable. Unshakable. There you go. And even when you are at 60% and you have that moment, if you give 100% of that 60%, like, boy, you're solid, right? Yeah. You know, and so that's where I think I like Nicole, how you pushed them kind of through that a little bit, because don't get stuck in that a little bit. And it's hard because, you know, that little Boston is always going to be in you. And when you grow and you have family and you decide to have kids, it's more like, okay, did you do the best? Okay, then forget the rest, right? Yeah. What'd you learn today? You know, tell me something about your teammate that I don't know about, or what can you control? I mean, there are times where I played up at the U, did not touch the ball or a bat, not one time. But I always made sure that my catcher had water the minute that we went into that huddle. Or I always made sure that Hannah knew that that pitch was going to come inside. Like, I tried to find a way to better it. And that's what that kind of exposes. Like, okay, I may not be a Nisa or Tez, shout out sis, but I'm going to make sure that I support her the best way possible. Yeah. And I think that's something you have learned. I mean, seeing you work with the branding team has been awesome, Boston, like, honestly. So
appreciate that.
A little moment for that.
Yeah, that was great.
A little shout out. It's awesome.
Appreciate it. I wanted to ask how you guys personally self-care yourself so that you can strengthen others around you so they can self-care themselves.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way. I've definitely done it incorrectly and inappropriately, which kind of led toward burnout and almost trending toward clinical depression, getting into that space. And I will say the one thing that kept me there, which I think can be really powerful for a lot of people to just increase your self-awareness here. I did it for the right reasons, right? I stuck in a situation for the kids and for the family, but I was going so far downhill so fast that I didn't even recognize it myself. So it was the right reasons, but it was the wrong things to do, right? And I think it's really easy to get those mixed up. We can do the wrong things for the right reasons, and we have to be careful, right? We got to do the right things for the right reasons. And that's where I kind of learned those lessons the hard way. I will say I've been through a lot of stuff in life, things that would blow your mind. And I'll just be completely transparent. I'm going through something really, really challenging right now. And what I've realized is that what's helped me is making sure I take some time for myself every single day to do the things that I know are good for me, which might not be the same for everyone. But how can I take care of myself a little bit every single day in the midst of this really difficult, traumatic thing that's happening in my life right now? And so what that looks like for me is sometimes it's giving myself space to cry and to be okay with that. And right, maybe this isn't the right place, but that will be. And I'm going to make sure I take that 15 minutes to lay on the floor and scream if that's what I need to do, right? Yeah. Or I know that physical activity and sunshine are two of my absolute biggest things. They are non-negotiable. I feel so much better when I get them. I feel so much worse when I don't. So yesterday, it happened to be a sunny day here. It was wonderful. All I wanted to do was lay on the couch. I wanted to lay on the couch and I wanted to feel sorry for myself. And I forced myself to get my ass off the couch and go outside. And it was the best decision I made. I felt so much better being outside, being in the sunshine, just moving around a little bit, completely changed. But I know that those little moments of doing something small, self-care doesn't have to be this enormous life-changing thing. It can literally be a 10-minute thing that you do for yourself that you know is going to be beneficial and powerful for you, basically to give you some juice to go back into it again, or whatever it is that it takes in those moments. And so for me, it's small, but it's mindful. And that's a piece of it too. I could have forced myself to go outside yesterday and that would have been it. And I went back in, okay, fine, I went outside. But when I was outside, I was saying things like, this feels so good. Oh my gosh, that sunshine just feels amazing. Oh, just moving my body a little bit feels good. I didn't have to do anything crazy. I'm not doing high intensity interval training or anything. I'm just moving, I'm just walking a little bit. But I was very mindful about it and recognizing the reason I was doing it, which helped it work better for me when I was doing it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then the other thing I would say, and the research supports this exponentially, I don't care where you look in the research on resilience, getting through adversity, difficulties, things like that, you're gonna find the number one factor is social support. Number one, it's people. It's having your people who you can text or call or sit in silence with and just connecting with those people. And so, and what's really cool too is, like I always say, you know, have your person who's going to help you bury the bodies. That's who you want to go to, right? Which, okay, tongue in cheek. But the research also indicates that pets work as well. So people who are like, well, I don't really have a person, but really love their pets, their dogs, their cats, whatever, those pets can give you some of that same oxytocin release that's going to happen when you're with people that are going to help you bury the bodies, right? Though that can really give you some positive benefits that really indicate self-care in really positive ways.
Yeah. No, yeah, I would say it's hard. Self-care, like being intentional with it is not easy. And I feel like I have gone through different waves of things that work for me or things that I thought were working for me, but weren't working for me. And also I think different scenarios will bring different intensities to it. And so it may be calling for a different kind of dosage per se of like, okay, I'm going to need to do this a little bit more consistently. But things that really help me through self-care, I would say journaling has always just been a really great thing for me to dive into, whether if it's on my phone, a voice record, or even like actually writing in a journal, because I tend to write things that I wish I could say. And then when I review it, then I'm like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit better. I'm going to not say that. And so that kind of just helps me slow it down. Another thing too, like how she had said, just putting out consistent time away for yourself, whether if it is going outside in sunshine or journaling or finding, you know, something that really just fits you. I think consistency is a big part for me. And that's something, just being transparent, that I struggle with. You know, I tend to only go to my hotline if I need it, rather than always just having it consistently there, which I think is kind of, people tend to normally struggle with that. You know, it's not until you really need something that you're asking for it, versus always tapping into it and making it sure that it's a habit. Yeah. And so something that's been really beneficial for us on the leadership team has really been working with, you know, some coaches and kind of establishing that a little bit more. And that's been one thing that I've been trying to focus on, is just the consistency of putting the 10 minutes aside just for me. And whether if it's at the end of the night or at the beginning of the day, and especially when you add dogs and family and a 2-year-old and a husband and all these things with it, it seems more unattainable to find 10 minutes. Yeah. But if you really, really schedule that, or if I have found, like, if I'm more intentional waking up before my son wakes up, it kind of sets the tone a little bit better. And so that was what I would say in regards to me. It's just journaling and really dedicating that 10 minutes aside just for Bella. I want to throw something else in on this, because I think it's really important. Is self-care is only going to go so far if you're not also showing self-compassion. Yep. So you're not going to undo consistent 60-hour work weeks where you are so stressed and it's been chronic and it's been 6 months. You're not going to undo that with a mani-pedi on the weekend. Oh. But right? We gonna try. We try. So what's really important, self-care is a very important component of self-compassion, but self-compassion is more about treating yourself the same way you would treat someone you love very much, right? If your husband comes to you and says, I am really struggling with something, I made this big mistake at work, are you gonna be like, well, you're such an idiot, why would you do that? And, well, they're probably gonna fire you, right? But you say that to yourself, yeah, right? We don't treat ourselves the same way. We don't give ourselves the same compassion and grace when we fail, when we make mistakes, when we struggle, as we give other people. Mm-hmm. And so when you find yourself really stressed and you're really struggling and something's going on in life, I really want to encourage you to focus on self-compassion as well, and recognize, okay, I'm really beating myself up here, and that's not going to help me with this. If this was someone I loved, how would I be speaking to them? I would show them kindness and care and compassion and grace. And I would tell them, hey, we're going to work through this together. So work on that same self-talk for yourself, and getting into a place where you can recognize that you're also part of common humanity. You will make mistakes as well. And you also showing yourself compassion is going to be really powerful. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, then that self-care is going to work so much better, because you recognize it's not a task. It's not a checklist item. You're not just crossing something off, but you're like, wow, I am also a human being who's going through something, and this is going to help me with that thing. I'm taking care of myself. Just like a parent, we would do anything for our kids, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever you need, I am there. Treat yourself that way sometimes too. And like, to go off of that too, especially the industry that we work with, mm-hmm. and the team members that we have, you throw in trauma, you throw in other barriers, it's a lot harder to overcome the fact that I deserve self-compassion for myself. Yeah. You know, and so it may require a little bit more legwork for you to rewire your brain that you are worthy of self-compassion. And it just goes back to, you know, being self-aware, right? Like, okay, well, where am I at? You know, everybody's stories are different, and we respect them no different than anybody else's. It's being aware of the fact that, me personally, I have a tendency of, you know, not thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, or those kind of things. And so making sure that I replace that with a really solid, positive core belief of myself. I am worthy. I deserve everything that's set forth to me. I am capable. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am safe. And building that up so then that way it is like, and I'm going to treat myself like that too. And so for those individuals that maybe have some of that trauma or some of those barriers that may be a little bit harder to get over, dive into them deep and replace that core belief with something that is way more strong and powerful, because everybody deserves that self-compassion, no matter what the track record says behind you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yep.
Well, speaking of self-care and self-compassion, was there ever a time where you personally didn't give yourself that self-care or self-compassion?
Yeah.
What were the kind of the consequences of that?
Do we want to go that dark?
I know, right? Like, oh boy, we got a therapist in here ready to handle this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like I was saying before, when I didn't do it correctly, I felt burned out and I kept going down that path. And I probably, if I had gone to a therapist, which I should have in hindsight, but at the time, it's hard to see it when you're in it. Mm-hmm. It's really, really challenging. And sometimes it takes someone else to question you before you take a step back and realize where you are. That's what it took for me anyway, because I just head down, keep going. I was doing the wrong thing, but for the right reason. And so it led to burnout, probably would have led to clinical depression had I gone to a therapist. I got pretty far down that path because I was not compassionate with myself at all. I was so self-deprecating. It was just horrible. And I certainly was not taking care of myself. I was taking care of everybody else and then exhausted at the end of the day and not taking care of myself at all. So I learned the hard way. And that's certainly what's helped me now, kind of like your basketball story, right? Went through something kind of rough, but hey, I'm better on the outset because of it, because now I know, and I'm self-aware and I know when to take care of myself, and I can catch myself heading down that path and pull myself back and ask myself right reasons and right thing, or wrong reasons, right thing, or right reasons, wrong thing, like what's happening here. So, I mean, without going into stories and stuff, you guys don't want to hear that, trust me. That's,
I would say like the same thing in how you had kind of like, so one of my learning curves is kind of like what Nicole had mentioned, and that's currently happening for me right now, is just making sure that I fill myself up in order to pour into other people, just because of certain things that I've experienced. I've been so used to, pleasing others and making sure that they're taken care of, and poor little Bella stuck in the corner, and so that's been something that I am currently working through right now. I think in the past, it's just been more of the journey of that self-realization, and that compassion part from it, and realizing that, it's not wrong or bad, and I can't go back and change it. It's okay. Well, what can I do now?
Right.
What can I set forth now? How can I break these chains of addiction or whatever the case might be, to move forward through it. Obviously the impacts of not taking care of yourself is, you not only tear yourself down, but you tear others around you down too. More likely than not, the most people that love you the most, because they want to make sure that you're okay, right? And so that's probably been the consequence of my experiences, the relationships that maybe I have lost throughout going through that process. But the cool part is those people that are still here today are true ones. Like they're ones like, the Anisas or the Aubreys or my grandma or Tony, Coach A, like that they could have bailed, but they didn't, and so that's the part that they stuck through it with me, which even highlights the relationship even more of like, okay, they get it, they get me and they get it. But yeah, I think when you're not tapping into yourself, you not only bring yourself down, but those around you, and
I really do. And not just mentally, but physically. So like it impacts your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your financial, like all of the pillars that are going to be talked about, which I'm really excited at your conference. But it impacts absolutely every aspect of your life, which then really starts impacting other people. And it's not a short-term impact on you or them. It's a long-term impact. And that can be really damaging over time.
Yeah. And I think like what I have learned throughout all that is, even though it didn't happen as fast as I'd like it to, boy, do I still have some time. I feel like there's always so much. I'm 29. I'll just lay that out real bit. 29. But sometimes that pressure of like, oh, I ran out of time, or I've missed my 10th grade back. Like sometimes those thoughts come in, but the one thing that I have learned is I still have control of now and tomorrow. That's right. You know what I mean? And so that's where I encourage people to realize that, like you can change it, girl.
I want to kind of transition into the actual self-care summit. So what are you guys looking forward to the most about the summit?
Oh man, so many things, right? I think my biggest thing, I'm always looking for new ideas that I can either implement myself or I can help other people with. So just new ideas, new how-tos. What do you got? What's a different strategy? Because I also feel like the more we can increase our awareness of what's happening. So we got to increase self-awareness first to know that we need to do self-care.
Yeah.
But then not the same thing's going to work for everyone. So I'm just really looking forward to learning a whole bunch of different strategies and ideas.
Yeah. I've got two-sided answers. So, being on the committee to like plan the whole event, like seeing it actually like roll out. And this is like the event that we've had the most notice for, which is a win. So I'm really excited just to see it all put together. And that's a little bit more of like the project side of me. I'm like, oh, I'm just so excited. Yeah. The other side of that is just the team. I am so excited for like direct line staff, mentors, clinicians, directors, like to be able to stay into that conference room and get what we've been planning and like all of these things. Like, I mean, us, we're excited. And so I'm just excited for the team to get spoiled, for them to get their cups filled up. And I'm just really excited to like the after of the fact of like, okay, what did this conference do for them, right? Because what we do matters and it's hard doing what we do, right? So I'm just really excited to see what's going to be implemented after, how people maybe change their habits, incorporate more things, and that we have provided them the ability to maybe change a little bit in the right direction, right? Doing the right things for the right reasons. And that's what I'm just really excited for, is for the staff and just to see their faces and get the feelings and the energy.
Yeah. What I'm really hoping people take from this is like an increased level of self-awareness. But then the second thing is thinking about how can we be more proactive than reactive?
Yes.
Because stress and adversity are going to happen. Life can be really challenging sometimes. And if you're always just reacting to those things, it's just not as powerful, versus it goes back to building that fence at the top of the cliff, right? So you're less likely to need the ambulance down in the valley if you can be proactive. Start taking care of yourself now. When you don't need it, it's going to help you so much more when you do. Yeah. It's going to be so much more powerful for you. Start being more compassionate with yourself and the way you speak to yourself now. And then when the next thing comes, because something else is coming, you'll get through it so much better if you start now. Be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah. And I mean, to be even on another thing, it's going to be fun. Yeah. Like, it's going to be fun. Like, we've got the social. It's going to be amazing. Some great speakers. Like, I mean, the whole state coming together, like Brigham City to St. George. Like, I'm just excited for the connection, like that energy that we bring into that hotel, that Utah Behavior Services is here. Like, that's what I'm just like, yes, let's do it,
Yeah.
Love it. That's cool.
So are there any fun teasers you guys can share about this event, or what our attendees can expect?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
This is one teaser we got going. Dr. Nicole Detling will be here. We've got some awesome speakers. And so I really hope that you guys are paying attention to social media. Check out some reels we've got going on to kind of build up that hype of the speakers. I think another little teaser, I mean, we wouldn't be UTBS without having some swag, right? So I'm really excited for y'all to get taken care of and really just dive in. But that would probably be a little teaser, I'd say, right there.
Nice. Thank you.
I still wear my pants that you gave me last time, the step up and step. I just wore them the other day. Every time I put them on, I'm like, oh, that's UTBS pants right there, baby.
Sponsored by Utah Behavior.
That's right. That's right.
No, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the teasers because I don't want to spoil it for everybody. But I think the biggest thing is pay attention to Instagram. Pay attention to Instagram. The branding team is going to build this up. We've got some really cool things. You guys know the companies that we partner with. You guys know the people we connect with, and y'all better be there. That's what I'm just trying to say. Y'all better be there. Come ready. Come hungry. I don't know. And say hi to me. I want to see you guys. So say hi.
I just want to throw out there too, I think this is really incredible what you're doing, and not just for your employees, but opening it up to the public as well. This is not something that occurs as often as it should. And when it does occur, it's usually an internal thing. And I just love that you are thinking about how can we really help as many people out there as possible and teach them the importance of these things? Because at the end of the day, we're all responsible for ourselves. And if we take better care of ourselves, we can take better care of the people that we are caring for in this world. And so just hats off to you guys. I think this is such an incredible thing that you're doing. It's so needed. It's so timely. And it's going to be really an incredible event.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate both of you. Is there anything else you guys like to say?
I just want to say thanks, girl.
Yeah.
Thanks, girl.
I love being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Like, honestly, I mean, I'll never forget our first appointment in your office, right by the Hudson.
Oh, boy.
Just walking over there, and like you helped me dramatically, and it was more specifically hitting the outside pitch and figuring out, you know, my triggers and visuals, and to see, you know, you coming back and doing the summit that we did in Park City back in, what was that, like 2021 or 2020 or something? It's been a minute, but still continuing this relationship, and I'm just really grateful for you, Nicole. I'm really excited for the self-care event. And obviously, you know, Nicole is going to really help us maintain after the self-care event. Yeah. And so you guys are going to see her a lot. And so I really hope that, like, they dive into that.
So prepare yourselves now, because whether that's a good or a bad thing for you, you have time to prepare.
Yeah. You were given warning. So get
whatever that means, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, because I'm coming around.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I just think also, honestly, Boston, it's a great time. Like, it's just all a great time, even through moments of either personal struggle or company struggles or whatever. Like, it's been really cool. UTBS has always been strong through it. And throwing an event like this for a team is just, we want to pay it forward. You know, we want it, and we want to see our team members grow and thrive in every possible way. Because what you do matters, right? Just like Natalie said, like, who you are matters, what you do matters. And let's support you through that. And let's get you to step up and step into providing and quality services and strengthening families. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening to Bridging the Gap. If you want to collaborate with us, you can email us at bridgingthegap@utbs.co. For more resources or information, go to utahbehaviorservices.com and check us out on social media at Utah Behavior Services. You can also learn more about Dr. Nicole Detling and Headstrong Consulting at headstrongconsulting.com. As a reminder, our self-care summit is on May 18th in Salt Lake City. We have a few open seats, so if you're interested in attending, check out the RSVP link in the description below.